this week that the only way to keep the war from escalating is to hold Iran accountable, part of what you're talking about now, and that it might mean bombing their oil refineries. Have you had any discussions with the Biden administration about this?
A bit. I want to applaud President Biden for his strong statement. Here's my message. If Hezbollah, which is a proxy of Iran, launches a massive attack on Israel, I will consider that a threat to the state of Israel, existential in nature. I will introduce a resolution in the United States Senate to allow military action by the United States in conjunction with Israel to knock Iran out of the oil business. Iran, if you escalate this war, we're coming for you.
All right, folks. Well, I hate to do this because I really did not want to have to be right about this, but today we need to address all of the haters and skeptics and people who called me a fearmonger for the things I've been saying about this Israel conflict, specifically regarding the agenda by the American neocons and war lobby to drag us into yet another war in the Middle East. This is something I've been sounding the alarm bells about since the beginning. Hey, they're gonna try to do this. Watch out, don't let them. A lot of people didn't believe me, and it now seems that just 9 days into this conflict, as a reminder, this war has only been going on for 9 days. It seems that the writing's already on the wall here. My warnings are already starting to become true. And in a very sad sense, we do seem to be vindicated. And again, I don't like that. I did not want to see America get involved in this conflict, but the drums of war are beating. And it seems to me not enough conservatives are pointing it out or noticing. So today we need to address that and show you why that is true. But just to quickly re-emphasize for people who maybe have not been following my content, my stance on this conflict has been clear and consistent from the beginning, which is, yes, on one hand, what is happening in Israel right now is horrible, okay? And it's something nobody wants to watch. But at the same time, in America, we do need to be very skeptical of the neocon agenda to drag us not just into war with Palestine, but also into war with Iran. A lot of people said, Vince, what are you talking about? Well, you may remember that last week, we've been sounding the alarm since this very moment. Lindsey Graham went out there and explicitly called for the bombing of Iran.
We should take down an Iranian oil refinery. The only way you're going to keep this war from escalating is to hold Iran accountable. How much more death and destruction do we have to take from the Iranian regime? We're going to blow up your oil refineries and put you out of business. It is now time to take the war to the Ayatollah's backyard.
Right. And since that very moment, what have I been warning everyone about? Guys, this is 2003 all over again. They are clearly deploying the same exact Iraq war playbook where they will throw something at you to emotionally manipulate you and then kind of push you along that emotional manipulation into supporting regime change in a country that, you know, is actually much like 9/11, not the actual perpetrator of what actually happened here, blah, 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 this and that. Again, same exact thing. And I've been warning everyone about this, okay? We do not need to send American kids to die in yet another war in the Middle East. Even in terms of whether or not we're going to fund yet another proxy war and help Israel and give Israel all their munitions, well, as you know, we kind of have a pretty serious debt and monetary crisis here in America already, and it goes beyond that. All of the munitions we are giving to Ukraine are currently creating already a munitions shortage in the United States, and then we're going to go try to give even more munitions now to Israel. So I've been warning about this whole scale. America does not need to be involved in this conflict. Israel, frankly, does not need our help unless you are trying to drag Iran into this war, which, you know, a lot of American neocons seem to want. And this is, of course, what I've been saying. Now, again, a lot of people have been skeptical of this, even though I waved the video of Lindsey Graham saying what he said in front of everyone's face. People said, oh, well, that's just the top Republican in the U.S. Senate. What's the big deal, Vince? Well, let's now pay attention to what the Biden administration and the actual people in control of the presidency here are out here saying. So, Janet Yellen, who is Joe Biden's Treasury Secretary, came out today and said that the U.S. can, quote unquote, absolutely afford another war. So, of course, if you're an American in this country and you've been thinking to yourself, wow, our debt is a pretty big problem. It's contributing to inflation, all the other, runarounds. Our tax dollars are already funding so much stupid nonsense as it is. Can we afford another war? Well, the answer to every common sense person, and I hope every conservative, is obviously no. Our country's going broke. We certainly do not need to be funding another proxy war. But what is a top Biden administration official signaling when she says this? Well, pretty obviously, she is saying, well, just as we've been sending aid packages to Ukraine, a pretty big military aid package is coming to Israel pretty soon. So again, folks, when I've been warning everyone about, what the politicians and political class want to do here, I was not talking out of my rear end. I saw this stuff very clearly coming on the wall. And again, as of Monday, October 16th, 2023, this is now the agenda. At the very least, even if they don't listen to Lindsey Graham, they are going to try to fund another proxy war. And again, I don't think the U.S. can actually afford that, contrary to what Janet Yellen is out here saying. Folks, it is obviously a very unstable time in the world right now, which is why it's never been a better time to invest your money in safe, stable assets like gold, silver, and precious metals. And whether it's converting a retirement account into a physical gold IRA or just using some spare cash to buy a little bit of gold to have, our friends at Noble Gold Investments can help you do this. Noble Gold has been helping customers like you secure their financial security with gold and silver for years now and have achieved an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. So especially if you're brand new to investing or especially investing in gold, our friends at Noble Gold can walk you through the entire process, and you can trust that A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. So if you're the least bit interested, do me a favor, because they do a lot to support this channel and are a big reason these videos are possible. Go check out the link at thevincedao.com. You can fill out a form there to put your contact information, or if you want to call them directly and speak to a real person, give them a call at 877-646-5347. Again, if you're just the least bit interested in investing in gold and silver, our friends at Noble Gold will give you the rundown and options, and your contributions, obviously, to Noble Gold go back into this channel. So, VinceDaoGold.com or dial the number. Check out our friends at Noble Gold. But even on the front of the escalation, as I've been talking about, you may say, Vince, come on now. There's no evidence that we're actually going to deploy troops or anything like that. Well, the news as of Monday, October 16th, again, and this is out of the Biden White House, is that we will indeed. The Wall Street Journal reported this, by the way. You can look it up. The U.S. military is preparing to send roughly around 2,000 troops for potential deployment to support Israel against Gaza. So you thought when the politicians were just saying, oh, we stand with Israel, we support Israel, blah, 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 that's all that they meant? My point, again, has been that's not all that they mean. That may be what you mean when you say we support Israel, its right to defend itself, all that stuff, and that's fine. But understand, when the politicians are saying these things, they don't just mean words. They're translating to action. This is the playbook I've been warning about. And now, as of 9 days into this war, we are already deploying 2,000 troops to Israel. Now, of course, you may say in response to that, in good faith, you may say, well, Vince, again, I see what you're saying here. Perhaps that is true. But maybe you would point out that, hey, these 2,000 troops are not actually fighting combat roles, right? According to the Wall Street Journal article on this, they're being used for, quote, advising and medical roles. Okay, so, and that's not surprising. In the beginning here, they're not going to be fighting on the front lines. Sure. But again, folks, let me reemphasize, we are 9 days into this war. If 9 days in, the U.S. Treasury is already saying, yeah, we have the money to do this. If 9 days in, U.S. troops are already headed to the Gaza region, past behavior, future behavior, what's the connection there? Where do you think this is all headed? By the way, everyone wants to talk about Iran, and again, I will reemphasize, the last thing I want to see is us escalating this situation into right now, what's kind of going on with Hamas and Hezbollah and Israel is, you could argue in some ways, right, a proxy war between the U.S. and Iran. Sure, what I don't want to see is that break out into full-out war between the U.S. and Iran. Okay? Now, with that said, Is it an escalation or de-escalation in this conflict to send, for whatever reason, American troops to the battlefield here that is very close to Iranian homeland? We know what this all means, okay? So at this point, when you have Lindsey Graham, a top Republican, saying what he's saying as a mouthpiece for a lot of the neocon, warhawk, rhino Republicans out there, when you have Joe Biden and his administration saying that we can afford to fund this war and already deploying troops to the Middle East, how can you, random commenter out there, random person who, doesn't like the stuff I've been saying about this Israel conflict, sincerely look at me in good faith and say, Vince, you're fear-mongering. Vince, the things you are warning about in regards to the neocons and their agenda here is not true. No, it absolutely is true. This is exactly what I've been warning about. I knew it was going to happen the moment Lindsey Graham went out there and said this. And for everyone's sake, let's hope this is the end of it. For the American taxpayer's sake, let's hope that Janet Yellen just says this and it doesn't actually happen. For the sake of American blood and our, the beautiful children of this country, let's hope that, the 2,000 troops we deploy and that's the end of it and nothing happens beyond that. But folks, again, we're 9 days in. What do you think is going to happen, guys? Where do you think this is headed? Don't be stupid. Use your brains, right? And it is very sad. Here's the last thing I will say. It is very sad to see so many conservatives who claim in the past few years that they've woken up. Hey, they get it now, right? Blah, blah, blah. To once again fall for the same exact CIA psyop that the American public was sold in 2003 with Iraq and frankly, probably many other times in recent American history, right? Because it's very interesting. The moment I say this stuff and point out, look, they're trying to send us to war with Iran and all this stuff, I guarantee we will get people in this comment section saying, but Iran's going to do nuclear weapons. Iran's good this and that, blah, blah, blah. It's literally the same exact sentence as the WMDs in Iraq thing that they sold us in 2003. And yet, sadly, so many conservatives in this country still don't get it. They're still able to be manipulated by these, again, psyops, right? And when times get tough or whatever, they still fall for the same BS our government has peddled us many times before, okay? So again, let me reemphasize. As much as my heart breaks for what's going on in Israel, I am for American neutrality, right? I do not believe it is America's duty to fund or fight this war on behalf of another country. That is simply the case, okay? Now, on the flip side, let me be clear about this, because there's another, thing that gets thrown at me a lot. I am not telling Israel what to do or how to defend themselves or whatever, right? That is their business. That is their conflict. So I'm not one of these people going out here and every time I see the brutal realities of war simply being shared on Twitter, I'm not crying war crime or this or that. I'm not telling Israel how to handle its business. Frankly, if I did live in Israel, if I was an Israeli and what happened, I'd probably feel the same way a lot of Israelis do right now. But the difference is I am an American. I assume if you're watching this, you likely are as well. And if you are Israeli watching this video doesn't apply to you. I'm not telling you how to think. I'm not telling you how to feel. But I also don't like being told by other Americans that I have to feel a certain way about a conflict that is not affecting myself or you or our homeland here. Okay, I care about our homeland. And ultimately, I don't see how funding this war or going to war with Iran or doing any of this stuff benefits our homeland. And folks, it really is that simple. It really is that simple. Okay. And if you disagree, if you're perfectly okay with going to war, either with Palestine or Iran, or, you trust the politicians and what they're saying and you think their vague rhetoric doesn't translate to what they're very clearly and obviously are trying to do in terms of escalating the war and getting America involved, then, I could say the whole, I have a bridge in Arizona to sell you or something. But even better yet, then I fully encourage you to go enlist in the military. Go do your thing, serve your passion. It's not my passion, though, right? So it really is that simple, folks. I mean, let me know what you guys think. Obviously, I'm sure we're going to be talking a lot more about this. But again, to recap today's news, America is deploying troops to Israel. Janet Yellen and the Biden administration has declared, we can indeed afford to fund this. Where do you think it's going? Be sure to check out our friends over at Noble Gold. And until next time, Alpha Moves Only. God bless. Have a very good day and peace.